A lot of space between houses. Mimi Watson was supposed to be waiting at her mailbox, but there was no sign of her. Cynthia turned into the Watsons' crushed stone driveway and followed its long curve through the woods until the mansion came into view. Mimi's mother was loaded. Her father had a big job, too. He was president of Tyler and Beck's on Fifth Avenue, the preferred clothier of snooty rich ladies everywhere. Mimi was standing outside, barefoot, on the terraced stone stairs that descended to the three-car garage. Mimi was wearing bell-bottoms, too, red with orange stripes. Standing below her, in front of the first bay of the garage, was Mr. Gagliardi, the curly-haired plumber everybody in the neighborhood used. He had all kinds of pipes and tools laid out on the driveway around him. "Memes!" Cynthia called. "We're going to be late." Mimi was rarely inclined to move quickly, but Cynthia had sufficiently alarmed her so that she threw her arms up in dramatic fashion before disappearing into the house. Mimi was an only child, and since Cynthia's siblings were so much older, the girls had been expected to play with each other, which for a long time Cynthia did because Mimi had every toy known to man. The problem was, whenever Mimi thought Cynthia might be having too much fun with a toy, she'd march over and grab it, shouting, "That's mine!" Well, it was. Cynthia couldn't argue with that, but eventually she got sick of it and found another girl to play with. While she and Mimi considered each other a friend and had seen each other practically every day for years and years, they were not close and they had different circles of friends. "I hear it's the first day of school," Mr. Gagliardi said to Cynthia, running a long copper pipe through his hands. Cynthia liked him. When she was younger, he taught her how to hold a blade of grass between her thumbs so she could blow on it and make a sound like a duck. Cynthia sighed heavily. "Yeah, first day." He glanced over. "You don't sound very happy about it." "I'm not." He lowered the pipe. "I thought you loved school, Cynthia. Weren't you the Queen of Sheba or something last year?" Cynthia laughed a little, kicking a piece of gravel. Queen of Sheba. That was pretty funny. When she looked up, she saw that Mr. Gagliardi was squinting up at the Watsons' house. She looked to see what he was looking at and saw Mrs. Watson standing at the staircase window. She was in a robe. Mrs. Watson saw her, and Cynthia started to wave, but then she disappeared. Mrs. Watson made Cynthia uncomfortable. She didn't talk a lot, and there were always these awkward silences. Mimi burst through the screen door. "Ready!" She gingerly started to make her way down the stairs. "Wow," Mr. Gagliardi said, "those are some flashy shoes." Mimi was wearing fluorescent orange patent leather Mary Janes with huge chunky heels. They matched the orange stripe in Mimi's pants, but otherwise looked like cartoon shoes. "I can't imagine what your mother thinks about those shoes," Mr. Gagliardi said. "She doesn't know about them," Mimi said with delight. "Your mom was just looking out the window," Cynthia told her. "Then let's get out of here." She pointed at Mr. Gagliardi. "Don't tell her." He held up both hands. "Never." The girls hurried down the driveway, Mimi struggling a bit with her heels in the little stones. They were to pick up one more kid in the neighborhood, Clark Allerton. Cynthia said he was probably having a conniption fit because they were supposed to have been there 10 minutes ago. "Well, maybe he left already," Mimi said hopefully. Cynthia had spent half her life ducking Clark because he was such a weirdo. But Clark had called her mother a month ago to make sure Cynthia would walk to school with him. When Cynthia cried, "No way, not to high school," her mother had read her the riot act, saying she had known poor Clarky since the day she was born, and not to walk with him would hurt his feelings terribly. And nobody, but nobody, likes mean girls. So here they were, and there was Clark coming down the road. When he was a couple yards away, he looked at his wristwatch, dropped the big old briefcase he had been carrying in his right hand, raised that arm high in the air, and with exaggerated slow motion, 3 times brought his right index finger down to strike the face of his watch as he said, "Late, late, late." The white dress shirt Clark was wearing was buttoned to the very top. On his chest, he was carrying pens and pencils and a plastic protractor in a pocket protector. "It's the first day, Clark. It'll be okay," Cynthia said, walking past him. She turned around to walk backwards, adding, "But we really need to hurry." Clark shook his head in disapproval, but he picked up his briefcase and followed her. When Cynthia and Clark reached Brown Avenue, they waited for Mimi to catch up. Cars full of kids were riding by them now. They crossed the street to use the one sidewalk, and before long, Mimi cried, "Something's wrong with my shoe! Wait!" Cynthia looked back. Mimi was balancing on one foot. "Take it off," Cynthia said, "and put it back on closer to school." "I can't walk in one shoe. I'll look like a teeter-totter." Clark was staring down at Mimi's feet. "Those are not sensible shoes," he told her. "Duh," Mimi told him. "Take them both off," Cynthia said, walking back. Mimi clutched Cynthia's shoulder and tried to unbuckle her shoe, but it did not go well, and Cynthia had to unbuckle them for her before Mimi fell on her head. A dreadful roaring noise was coming from down the road, and they turned to look. A big old green Impala was making its way toward them, spewing exhaust everywhere. "Muffler's shot," Clark said. The Impala pulled over, muffler blasting, rattling and shaking. "Want a ride?" Jocko Trapezzano shouted out the passenger window. Jocko was in 10th grade too, but had been kept back a couple of times. He was the only boy Cynthia had ever heard of that got his license in 8th grade. Jocko wore his hair long and used oil to keep it in place, which sort of made him look like a hood. Mimi's hand shot up. "I'll take a ride." "Get in," Jocko shouted. Then his eyes shifted to Clark. "But not you." Ouch, Cynthia thought. Clark was a weirdo, but he never did anything that hurt anybody. Clark's whole body had stiffened. "Mrs. Schuyler entrusted me with the girls' safety. Where they go, I go." "Give it up, Clarky. He's not taking you," Mimi said, pushing past him to reach for the door. A Volkswagen bus of upperclassmen was slowing down to see what was going on. Between the fumes, the muffler, Jocko, and Clark, Cynthia could feel her social status diminishing by the second. Then she glanced down to find Jocko staring at her chest. When his eyes finally came up, he grinned. "Oh, foxy lady," he said, imitating Jimi Hendrix. Cynthia stepped back. "Cynthia, come on," Mimi shouted from the back seat of the car. Jocko was acting like such a creep. "You guys go ahead. I'm walking with Clark."